What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out. Now, with this video, we are jumping into X-Men's X-Force with issue number 25. And if you haven't been keeping up with this line, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It will get you completely caught up on everything going on with the X-Force. And this issue will not be following everything that has been currently going on over the last couple issues in the X-Force line. This one's going to be deterring us a little bit, and we're going to be focusing on Quentin, Wolverine, and the mutant nursery that exists on Krakoa. And so with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into issue number 25, we are picking up with Wolverine and Forge at the Arsenal. And Wolverine has come to pick something up that he had Forge make. And Forge lets him know that he completed it. He completed the surfboard that Wolverine asked for. Plated in adamantium, this surfboard is indestructible. A surfboard so sharp that it could cut your skin. But Wolverine has absolutely no intention of using this surfboard as a weapon. What he wants to do is go hit some of the killer waves that are off of Krakoa. And that's what takes us to Dead Mutant Cove. And this place is unique to any other place on the planet, with having 40, 50, 60, 70 foot waves, and even at times 100-foot waves. This is a liquid avalanche that simply never stops. And when these waves drop, everything feels it. The earth shakes from these. But through all of this violence, this is where Wolverine, he finds his true paradise. Believing that you do your best living when the taste of death is right there on the tip of your tongue. And so with Wolverine going and hitting the waves, that's when we pick up with Kid Omega, aka Quentin. And in the air, we see it formed a heart shape with Phoebe plus Quentin, because Quentin has come to pick her up so that they can go out. They want to go out on a date. Well, Quentin wants to go out on a date with her. With her completely forgetting about this, she can feel her sister's stares, just like daggers stabbing her in the back. Because the sisters, they're simply just not happy about this situation. Not happy about Phoebe going off all the time with Quentin and leaving them to their own devices, leaving them one person short, because this doesn't work as well without all of them. But as Quentin and Phoebe walk off, Phoebe is really irritated, and it's not necessarily Quentin's fault, but she definitely takes it out on him. But as she gets further and further away from her sisters, she really starts to warm back up to Quentin, because she loves spending time with him. At the end of the day, he is somebody that makes her smile. But today, Quentin is taking her somewhere special. Today, he is taking her to the Bower, our little nursery of all the mutant babies from mutants having children all over the island. And this is actually really kind of unique. While it definitely takes away the responsibility of being a parent, the efforts here is to make as many mutants as possible, and then Krakoa and these caregivers will be the ones to take care of them, to make sure that they are raised to fruition and so on and so forth. And so every day we are seeing new mutants born. Every day we have new mutants growing up, going to school. This is turning into a fully functioning society. And the way they are raising the children is by using the village. The saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And that's exactly what mutantkind is doing right now. Though you do have to worry about the ethical questions of having children and then just leaving them here. How is that going to affect the child growing up? Will this village type style really offset the want to have those two biological parents? But that's where we pick up with Wolverine, and right now he is just surfing up a storm. He is hitting the waves, he is enjoying his life, This is his bliss. Better than sex, better than whiskey, or at least in his opinion. This is everything that he could want right here. This adrenaline rush, the fear of going to the bottom of the water and just dying, not being able to come back up. And we know Wolverine, he's one to take these risks, because at the end of the day, even if he does end up technically dying, he can just be resurrected. But it doesn't take away from that rush, that feeling like you might actually die here. And as we see Wolverine hitting these waves, he ends up going underneath the water. With the waves crashing over him, the surfboard goes flying off in the opposite direction, and he finds himself sinking to the bottom of the ocean as he finds himself scraped across some coral reef. This stuff is super sharp and it cuts his skin to bits. And as he finds himself sinking to the darkness, this is when somebody comes into the water. Someone comes to rescue Wolverine. Now, picking back up with Phoebe and Quentin. Quentin comes here quite often. In fact, he's found himself here in the nursery as his kind of getaway, his relief. While Wolverine's out there surfing, Quentin likes to come here into the nursery. And that's because a few weeks ago, one of these mutant babies nearly cleared and killed everybody for a 100-yard radius. With most mutants not manifesting their powers until puberty, this is not the case with every single mutant. And there are those outliers who develop their abilities far sooner than any of the others. And Quentin, knowing better than anybody that an infant, a child with this amount of power and no control yet, is an extremely dangerous thing. Now, this kid's name is Max, and Quentin quite hasn't figured out the full scale of his mutant abilities yet, but he knows it has something to do with telekinesis. And so now, once a week, he goes through the birthing ward and he does a scan of the mental salve of all of these little ones. But more than anything, he really does love this place, because if he had the opportunity to grow up in a nursery like this, things might have turned out much differently. He might have had a much different life than the one he currently has, or the one he currently had. Now that's where we pick back up with Wolverine, finding himself on the shore, his body healing up, and a blonde woman standing in front of him. Not really knowing who she is, where she came from, she is the one that rescued him. And she is here with a few other individuals. And they are also hitting these waves, because Wolverine, he's not the only one that likes this thrill. He's not the only one that likes hitting these monsters. And so for the next few hours, all of them, they surfed until their lower backs cramped, their thighs and their ankles crumbled, and they told him about places that they had surfed. Those places outside of Krakoa, because the best waves are usually the most dangerous because of sharks, reefs, gun-toting militias, ice-churning waters, whatever the case may be. And as the day goes through, it really seems like Wolverine is falling for this girl. Her name is Pike. And as the day turns to night, the two of them, they sit on the beach and they drink some beer. They just have a good time. They talk about Krakoa and where the best waves are to hit. Her saying that she heard that by the nursery, that's where the best waves could be, or at least some of the best waves. And so she wanted to go try that out. With him pointing to the location of where the nursery was, Wolverine doesn't think anything twice about this situation. And that's because Wolverine is just so fixated on her, wanting to have relations with her, wanting to be with her. He is too fixated on that to pay attention to what her true intentions are. Now, picking back up with Quentin later that evening, he now finds himself in bed, and he has Phoebe calling to him on the astral plane. And so as he goes to her, they have a conversation about how she looked into his head. Though she said that's something that they shouldn't do, that they should have their secret, she looked into his head nonetheless, and she saw exactly what he wanted. He wants a family. He wants a family with Phoebe. And for her, she says this is too much. It's all simply too much. He's going too fast. He loves too hard. And that's just who he is. But it's something that she simply can't do. Because at the end of the day, she has to be loyal to her sisters, above anybody else. And so whatever relationship could have been, this is the end of it, with Phoebe's sisters telling her that she has to do this, and if she does not, it is going to cause huge problems, and it is always sisters before misters. But that's what takes us to the nursery, and we have Pike and her surfer friends making their way in here, having some kind of containers to keep these babies in some kind of isolation but safe while they go out into the ocean and underwater trying to sneak these children out of here. They have come to kidnap mutant babies, and with each of them being able to grab one baby, put it into the pack, they hurry their way off of the island. Jumping into the water, Black Tom lets Sage know that the Plankton perimeter security is letting him know that something is going on right now, and that something is a baby heist. Someone is trying to kidnap children, and they are gonna get away if they don't go and stop them right this minute. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This was definitely a fun and interesting issue. You know, and it's because there's so many mutants that have been born, that are coming about, so on and so forth, mutants coming in through the gates every day. And because of this, it's really hard to keep up with who belongs here and who doesn't, believing that if you're here, you must be a mutant, because how else would you get through the gateways? How else would you be here on Krakoa if you were not a mutant? And that's not to say Pike and her friends are not mutants, but by all accounts, it looks like they are not. It looks like that they are working for somebody. Maybe they're just bad guys trying to sell mutant babies. At this point, we really don't know what the extent of their overall goal here is. But having one of the mutant babies who has their mutant powers activated, they don't know that. So we can only assume that this is going to end very poorly for them. Now, when it comes to Quentin and Phoebe, Quentin is really hurting right now. And this is probably something Phoebe didn't want to do at the end of the day. But she has to stay loyal to her sisters. Her sisters give her so much grief. And because of that, she feels so entirely guilty that she has to put some kind of barrier between her and Quentin, believing at the end of the day it is for the greater good, because she will do nothing more than hurt him. You know, I was really looking forward to finishing off what was going on with having Colossus now part of the council, everything going on with Rasputin, his brother. But this also seems to be like an ongoing pattern when it comes to the X-Men lines. They like to jump the story around a little bit. But in an arc or two, we're gonna see it all come together, and they usually do it in a really great way. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have not yet, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content we have coming out, and until the next breakdown.